Many of you guys know the Blackened brand at this point. You guys certainly know Metallica, that's for sure. Metallica
Who are they?
and huh? So Blackened is the whiskey kind of collaboration between a variety of distillers, a brand, and Metallica. The band, obviously Blackened, it comes from Black in the World, but typically they've been doing bourbon. They've been doing bourbon for a long time. They kind of put their toe in the water and did a rye expression around the holidays last year. It was pretty good. And today we have for you just a small bottle here. We have Blackened's shelf staple rye product. So this guy, it's probably a little hard to see. It is a double cask finished rye, finished in Madeira and rum barrels, which is really unique both for rye in general,
Right.
unless you've had seagrass, or
Ayo.
missing a little apricot brandy there. But rum and Madeira, super hot in rye whiskey these days, apparently. Let's go ahead and give it a shot. This guy's bottled at 45% ABV. You should be able to find it on a shelf near you anytime.
So on the nose alone, which is as far as I've gone, I didn't cheat and get into this one early, which shame on me. I should have. I love to get in here and have some before you get to talk about it. On the nose alone, it's really exciting stuff. It's very reminiscent of the Whistle Pig Boss Hog 7. No, I'm sorry, Boss Hog 8, the Lapu Lapu specific. And also Seagrass. The obvious component missing is that big punchy apricot that jumps into your face and punches you right in the olfactory. This comes through with like a really cool, like funky, grapey, fruity vibe right on the nose. And then like, I feel like that's going in one nostril, right? And then in the other nostril, you're getting the like spicy rye and some good buttery undertones there too, which I feel like is some of that's coming from the rum. But anyway, like a lot of this is exciting just on the nose alone.
Right. This guy, at the surface, and people have been thinking this for a while, like, oh boy, it's just another celebrity whiskey brand. But
Can you use that voice again for other things too?
yeah, all
All right,
night
go.
long. My rates are accessible and inexpensive, but people have kind of been downing Blackened since it came out. Like, a lot of musicians have gotten, celebrities have gotten involved in whiskey, and people are like, oh man, this is going to be another crappy collab. But last holiday season, they pushed out the Willet collab, which was a blend of ryes. It was barrel strength. That thing hit a home run.
That was
And I
nice.
think it gave them a little room, give them a little runway to try some interesting stuff. They're like, okay, that hit, that was weird, but it did well. So I think they went they took that inch and they went a mile with this, but I really like it. It's still clearly rye, but it has a lot of interesting, unique components. And honestly, it doesn't taste that similar to seagrass, which I was kind of afraid it was. I was like, oh, is this going to be, seagrass light? But this guy, it has a lot of flavor.
It does. It drinks much different than seagrass, actually. It's while there's some pieces of it that are reminiscent of seagrass on the nose, it's a very different sip altogether. I think the like grape skin, like mild tannic fruitiness really hits me first on the palate, which kind of threw me for a loop because I was expecting that rye to kind of grab hold and then to migrate more toward the rum. And that's not really how this is drinking, which is kind of like this crazy juxtaposition of what it's like on the nose to that first sip.
Yeah, I'm with you. This guy is like big pound cake maple on the nose, which kind of lulls you into this weird sense of security. It's sweet and biting, and you think, oh, it's just a barely illegal rye. And then on the palate, it's big and juicy and fruity. It's got kind of that dull cocktail fruit syrup note to it, which I really enjoy because it just right as it starts to get sweet, the finish just strolls on it. It is big and rich. It's really spicy. It's really herbal. And I struggle to think that I would have ever said this about just like a 45% ABV rye off the shelf from a celebrity brand, but like this is super complex.
It is pretty complex. Yeah, I'm with you on that. There's a lot of things going on with it. I do catch some of that maple on the nose. I don't really get so much of it on the palate. But again, like that's kind of the crazy thing about this for me is that I'm getting so many differences just nosing the glass and then tasting it, which is cool. I feel like where this is missing a little bit for me is like we spoke about earlier, that viscosity, that finish. Like it's just a little bit thin.
Right.
And part of that is obviously when you review things that are barrel proof and much punchier, and then you come into something that's a lot lower ABV, it's going to be different, and that's fine. Just standing on its own, this is way more complex than I would have guessed. And I'm kind of curious, do we know where the rye came from that they're using in this? Or is it stated as like being a Kentucky product or an Indiana product or anything?
I need to check. So we'll do a fun little game
Okay.
of chicken with the facts. I believe that this is MGP rye. They have mixed a variety of ryes. They've mixed Willet rye. It is not stated on the sample. In fact, I don't know.
It most certainly does not drink or smell like Canadian rye, which made me think this could be a Kentucky rye on the first nosing, but on the taste, it does seem very much more MGP Indiana style.
No, you had it right there for a second. I just looked. This is a Kentucky straight rye. So this could be Willet rye. This could be any number of other ryes, which kind of, this doesn't have that big like herbal dilly note that I get from MGP, which kind of threw me off. But with those finishes in the mix, it could have, kind of led me astray. But yeah, this is a Kentucky straight rye finished in those barrels. So that's, I think, almost as interesting as the whiskey itself.
Yeah, this is cool. Fruity, kind of sweet, a little bit of funkiness going on there. There's just like, it drives in a lot of different directions at the same time, which is something that I like. It gives you a lot to think about, a lot to talk about. And this is one of those things that I think, especially for maybe a newer whiskey drinker, I've heard friends before say something along the lines that they are unsure about how to pick out tasting notes, or they don't really know how to describe their whiskey. And one of the best things you could do in that scenario is to sit down with either, like Jay recommended earlier, two different things that are wildly different and try to compare them. Or take something like this that is kind of crazy, has a ton going on, and just talk about everything in it. Have 3 or 4 of your friends sit down, everybody have a little glass of this, and just be like, man, I think this tastes like XYZ, and somebody else could throw out their opinions. And the more you just sit, talk, and share, the more you're going to kind of understand, like, no, actually, yeah, I do taste some of these things. And maybe I didn't know how to put my finger on that exact flavor, but now that you've mentioned it, I feel like it's that too. Or it makes me think of something a little bit different, but I see what you're saying too. I just think a good exercise to pour it, swirl it around in the glass, to talk about it, and just really kind of gets those notes going.
Absolutely. Tasting whiskey is all about correlating past experiences to what you're experiencing here in the moment. So anything you can do to help draw those parallels between your brain and things you've smelled, tasted, experienced is super valuable. Like, tasting whiskey is not that difficult. It seems hard because when you start with a blank canvas, it can smell like anything. But as you slowly build those neural connections to past experiences and past things you've tried, it I won't say becomes easy, because it's still something I work on every single day as a professional spirit stringer, but it certainly becomes straightforward, and having a kind of a way forward is half the battle sometimes.
I'm with you on that. Yeah, I mean, overall, I think this is really cool. It's a fun expression. There's a ton going on with it. I miss either just a slight touch of ABV or a little bit of finish on it, because there's just a little thin for me. But man, overall, I would have a hard time rating this poorly.
Right. And let me tell you this, Black & Whiskey, if you are listening, release this around the holidays for 55% ABV instead of 45, and I think you have a rock star on your hands.
Ooh, that's a good term to use for that. Absolutely. Earlier, you mentioned this pound cake note, which I think really ties in well with that holiday spirit as well. Spirit being the pun there. I'm sure you got that right. Anyway, let's go ahead and wrap this one up, man. I think this is a cool expression. I'm ready to move along and see what comes down the road next from the Blacken line, because these are so far have been really exciting.
Yeah, cool brand. They kind of buck a lot of the kind of cliches about spirits involved with celebrities and personalities and bands. So good on them for breaking some molds, and I look forward to trying the next one.